part 2 of my series Building a Free HMI for Allen Bradley, I am going to show how to graph data that is read from a PLC data table. The component we use, once again, is all freely available software, and you will see it has the ability to zoom in and zoom out along with many other features that are built into the component. This video assumes that you already have Visual Basic Express and the DF1 component from the first video in this series. We must now go to SourceForge.net and retrieve our charting component. Once you get to SourceForge, do a search for ZED graph, all one word, no spaces. You will want to download ZGraph DLL only. We're not concerned about the source code at this point. Once you download it, extract it to a directory where you will know where you can get it again. For this demonstration, I have a sample program in my PLC with an N11 data table that contains a bunch of data, and that is the data we're interested in that we want to show on a graph. So let's get started building our HMI. Let's launch Visual Basic Express, create a new project of the type Windows application. We will just use the default name. Now once I'm in, I'm just stretching out my form to give me a little more space. So the first step we need to do is right click the name of our application and add an existing item and browse to the location where DF1 is stored, as we did in the previous demonstration. Once we've added that, let's build our application in order to create the DF1 from source code. Now if we go to our toolbox, we'll see DF1 there. Now let's right click in that area and choose items. We are going to browse to the zgraph.dll that we downloaded from SourceForge, and this will add it directly to the toolbox. You see, make sure you do the latest version and zgraph.dll, not the web.dll. We should now have a zgraph control in our toolbox after it's added. So now let's click on it and drag and drop one onto our form. Now I'm going to size mine, position and size it out to pretty much the full form and leave a little space at the top. Now I'm going to go to my properties under anchor, and I want to anchor it at the right and lower. So now let's go to the toolbox and select DF1 and drag and drop one onto our form. Check our properties and make sure the communications match those of our PLC. Now let's go back to the toolbox and add a button to the top space we left on our form. Now let's go over to our properties. Let's just change the text property of the button to something like get data from PLC and graph, something like that. And once that's done, double click the button. It will take us back to the code. Now I'm going to just make our code all magically appear and describe each line / section one at a time. Our first line, we're going to declare an array of strings and call that N11. Next, we're going to read the data from the PLC using our df1 component. We're going to start at address N11:0 and read 200 elements and then store that into our array named N11. Since our charting component requires its data as type double and our df1 com component returns everything as a string, we need to do a conversion. We're going to store the result of our conversion into two arrays, X and Y, which is of type double, and we're needing 200 elements, so we're putting 199, which starts at 0 through 199, giving us 200 elements. I'm going to do this conversion with a for next loop. We're going to use the X value to store the index position, which matches the position in the data table, and then we're going to use the function cdbl, which is a convert double, to convert the string array to the double array. Now that we have our values stored in an array of type double, we can pass those values to our charting component. So this is where we use zgraph control 1 and the graph pane and add curve method. And N11 data in parentheses is just a name that will show up in the legend. We're going to tell it X and Y is our array. We want the line to be of color blue, and the symbol type is the marker at each point. We're going to use none because we just want a smooth line with no markers. In our last two lines, we're going to use axes change method to tell the charting component that we changed the data. And also we're going to call the invalidate method, which forces a redraw. We are now ready to run the program. Up in the toolbar, press the play button in the VCR control section, and that will begin to run the program. Now when the form comes up, we can maximize it, and you will see the graph also resizes the shape of the form. When we set the anchor property, that's what told it to do that. Now click the button, and when you do, you will see it will go out to the PLC, read the data, and plot it on the graph. And now you can dynamically zoom into areas and then right click, and you will see several other tools, and you can unzoom all to restore the chart. And there we have created our chart.